Hello. Hi, I'm Beth. I'm speaking to you from Melbourne in Australia on Wurundjeri country, and just outside my window, the sun has set as we begin our Lenten reflection. Behind me, I've lit about 15 candles. That seems enough for tonight. And this is the time of year in Lent that we think about our days. If my young nieces were to ask me, Beth, what is Lent? What does Lent mean? I'd say, well, it comes from an old English word that means lengthening. And it's when the days are getting longer, start to get longer, and we begin to feel that in the seasons. And my nieces, bar one, would look at me strangely and say, hang on a moment, our days are getting shorter here in Melbourne, not longer. Our days are getting darker sooner. I have one niece in the UK who would say, oh, yes, that makes sense. That's right. The days are getting longer and there's a sense of warmth and warming up and something new coming. But as we come into Lent, the length of days are changing, whether they're getting longer or whether they're getting smaller. So it's a great time of year engaging together to notice the length of things. It's a great time of year to get out and measure our shadows together at different times of the day. It's a great time to notice, when is the sun getting up? When is the sun going to bed? And to bring ourselves into alignment with what the seasons are doing, what the light and the dark in the world around us is doing. As we think ourselves, what's the balance of light and dark within my own life, within our relationships, within our household? So tonight, as we pause and reflect together on Lent and think about what are the intergenerational possibilities? Are some of those things best done together in intergenerational relationships? I can see how that would be. Measuring things together, noticing things together, best done with variety of eyes, with old eyes and young eyes that are light and sparkly with wide-eyed wonder, and eyes that are, twinkly and wizened with age, as we look together and think about the balance and the measure of light and dark in our lives. I hope that inspires you to some activities that you might do in your own household or suggest to your own community, the kinds of measuring things that we can do. One of the reasons I've been invited to lead this reflection today, is because I've written a collection of Lent resources for Intergen, an organisation that many of you might know. And I've thought that I would just pick up a few threads from one of those Lenten resources. So they're all intergenerational resources. They're the kinds of things that you might use in Messy Church or in other intergenerational faith formation gatherings and opportunities. So this comes from the fourth week of Lent and draws together around the theme of light. I've entitled the whole resource through Lent, which is often spoken about as a journey. I've borrowed a little bit from Dr. Seuss and called it, Oh, the Places You'll Go. And some of the places that we'll go in Lent include the dark places of Lent 4. On Sunday, with the congregation that I was leading, we were in the desert places, the testing places, and we'll go to wandering and wondering places. We'll go to in-between places. We'll go to the place of death won't we? So, dark places, Lent 4. In the readings, the lectionary readings for Lent 4, there's all of these ideas about light and dark. Jesus meets a man in darkness, a man born blind, and turns the light on for him and for those around who misunderstand his darkness as something to judge and blame. And as we think about the measures of light and dark in our life, that's a good thing to pay attention to, but not something to turn into judgment or blame towards ourselves or towards other people. In that set of lectionary readings on that week, the old prophet Samuel, wise as he was, also needed God to help him see leadership in a new way, in a new light, we might say, as he chose Israel's next king, also switching the lights on. There's a reading from Ephesians. I wonder how often we open an epistle in our messy church gatherings. Well, I hope that this inspires you tonight. The Ephesian church are reminded that knowing and following Jesus is like having the lights turned on for us all, to see things well, and also to hear the call to become light. And then as we walk through our own dark places, as happens in life, we pray for God to be our vision, to turn the lights on and to help us see as God sees. So let's just have a quick look at a couple of these resources and engage with them together. So what's on the screen now? Yep, that'll do. The first one, 5.8a. This is the Ephesians reading. And you can see I've divided it into 9 sections. And so I gather 9 lamps. The resource suggests that you gather 9 different kinds of lamps together, maybe a torch, maybe a bedside lamp, a Pixar lamp, desk lamp, a head torch. They're pretty funky. Get someone to wear one of those. And have one of these verses, all of them talking about light from Ephesians, attached to the 9 lamps. And then give space for people to volunteer, to go to a lamp and to read one verse. Or perhaps you might do that in pairs. Isn't that just a really great way of engaging people together in intergenerational faith formation, to say, instead of just asking for one volunteer, let's ask for 2. Have we got a pair of people, someone older, someone younger, who'll get up and do this together? To maybe one person to switch on the light and someone else to read, and to work together on this, so that we don't have single volunteers, but little teams, maybe 2s and 3s doing this with a buddy. And so hearing each of these simple sentences about light. Often when we think of reading the epistles, we think of blocks that seem kind of a bit convoluted and all a bit dense. Sometimes we get lost in the words, but if we just kind of tease them out a little bit, as I've done here, we can see how it's just a construction of simple little statements about light. Each one something to kind of have a look at. One of the simplest ways that the early disciples of Jesus found to explain what knowing and following Jesus was to say it was like Jesus turns on the lights and lights up where we live. And for people who lived without electricity, houses could be very dark, even in daytime, and streets and fields were really, really dark at night and dangerous in many ways and quite easy to hide in. So I wonder what we can learn from this idea, the difference that it makes to have the lights turned on and to live in light. So then I would invite people to think together, to choose a lamp, one that they like, and to gather around it. We've heard all the sentences once, and then choose one and go and really think about it. You might like to have a big poster of a light globe there and add to draw and write ideas that people come up with about what do these individual things. Let's pick one right now. Imagine that you had gone and chosen a torch, big magna light, and on that light it's got attached to this line. But everything exposed by light becomes visible. Imagine a group of people, old and young, all kinds of different experiences around that, and go, what does Ephesians mean by that? What would the Ephesian Christians have made of that? But everything exposed by light becomes visible. What's good about that? And what might we be uncomfortable about that? Imagine the kinds of things that they might say in that, what they might share. And of course, getting a little bit off track and sharing our stories and our experiences of a time when, whoa, we were stuck in the dark, or when the light suddenly came on after a blackout, or, we'd been in darkness and lights came on, and how that was like when things became visible and things were exposed, what that was like. If we start sharing our stories a little bit off topic, no, that's not off topic at all, is it? That's absolutely the gold in intergen faith sharing. So there's an example. Every single one of these 9 phrases has the potential to open up those kinds of stories and to think together about how the Ephesian community of early Christians might have thought about following Jesus as switching the lights on. The second activity that we're going to look at together is a bit of a combination of art and music and word. And isn't that one of the great joys of intergenerational faith experiences, that we don't necessarily segregate up ages? That's fantastic when we don't segregate ages. But we also have the great idea that we don't have to segregate ways of engaging. This is a prayer, this is a song, this is a sermon. Yeah, but we mix them all together in the same way that we combine our ages and experiences and our personalities and our faith journeys together in a great mess. So we do with different parts, or not necessarily different parts of the liturgy, but different forms of engaging together. So this is one of those kind of messy mashups. And so I'm going to start with the visual thing. But the visual continues while there's spoken word and there's music as well. So this idea involves a huge eye poster, something that's, at least A1 size. And it's a big poster of an eye. And along with the eye poster, you're going to have some strips of red, not red, it's the only colour you don't have, green and yellow and blue strips of cellophane, and also some transparent ones. So the blue and green and yellow are going to go on the eye, on the iris, and the transparent ones are going to go on the actual eyeball so we can see. And you'll need some Sharpies to go with those, and to invite those in your community to add pictures and words about the way they want God to help them see things more clearly, how they can see with God's vision, to look, for example, if you like, through God's huge eyeball. So as the music and the words happen, people are invited to take a Sharpie, take a piece of cellophane, either a transparent clear one or a coloured one, and add their drawing or picture of things, ways they want to see more clearly, and to glue those on. So you're going to have an interesting kind of a mosaic effect happening over the poster as that goes on. While that's happening, the song Be Thou My Vision, it's an oldie but a goodie. And one of the things that we treasure in Messy Church and intergenerational faith relationships is that although we're embracing of many new ways, we don't sacrifice the gold from our tradition. So this song, Be Thou My Vision, of course, it's an Irish hymn. It's sung to an old Irish drinking tune. There's nothing holy about the tune at all, but the words, of course, are really beautiful. And what I've done in the resource is just to divide it into four verses. So I've missed out one verse, but 4 verses. And with each verse, I've aligned it with one of the readings for the day. Often in Messy Church that I've seen, we're reticent to do more than one text at a time. Let's just do one story. And I just want to, Bible enthusiast as I am, I want to encourage us to see how different stories from across the whole Bible, as in the lectionary, can be combined and that they help each other. That when we read the lights being turned on for the man born blind and the Ephesians on the same day, along with Samuel having to see not as man sees but as God sees, and Psalm 23 is in there, walking through the shadow of death. We put all of these together. We understand how each of the texts works even more clearly. So this song, we sing a verse at a time, and there's a reader who just reads a brief introduction that connects that verse with one of the texts for the day. So if we can just look at the first verse as an example. So we're starting off. This is so reader 1 and verse 1. Yeah, that's it. So this is, Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart, not be all else to me save that thou art, etc. Okay. And the introduction to that, in John's Gospel today, we see a man blind from birth. Jesus gave this man vision and challenged his disciples and Pharisees to see people differently too. And here's the invitation. As we sing this verse, we ask God to help us see the world with God's clear vision. And so perhaps that might be something that you want to add to the big I poster. Remember that? We've got the I poster going on. And then the second verse, Be thou my wisdom, be thou my true word, I ever with thee and thou with me, Lord. Born of thy love, my child I may be, etc. So in 1 Samuel, in the Hebrew Bible today, we see Samuel looking at the tall, strong, accomplished young men of Jesse's family, looking for a leader for God's people. And God's spirit of wisdom directs Samuel to look for the youngest, the smallest child in the family, and challenges us to see strength and stature, weakness and vulnerability differently too. So as we sing this verse, we ask God to help us see the world with God's true wisdom. Now, it's pretty wordy, isn't it, for Messy Church, perhaps? I wonder if you're feeling that, or whether you're just going, Beth, get over yourself. Don't underestimate us. I hope that's how you feel. We want rich, good, well thought out words because, of course, along with these, we've had plenty of hands-on, plenty of exploring the text together in tactile kind of ways. So as we come together in this sort of gathering activity, the words are rich and make sense to us. I'll finish really briefly with the third verse, riches I heed not, nor man's empty praise, or vain empty praise. Thou mine inheritance now in all ways, thou and thou only first in my heart. ruler of heaven, my treasure thou art. And in Psalm 23, you can see how this fits. We see the image of God not as a mighty king in riches and splendour, but in the vision of that simple, rough young shepherd leading and protecting his sheep. So as we sing this verse, we ask God to help us see the world with God's values. And then finally, the last verse, true light of heaven, when victory's won, may I reach heaven's joys, oh bright heaven's sun, etc. And in the letter to the Ephesians today, we see the image of God's great light, brightening our darkness and changing how we see all of life, even death. And so as we sing this verse, we celebrate the light of God, bringing clear vision, true wisdom, deep value, and bright joy. So I hope there's lots to think about for your own heart there, lots to think about how you see your way through dark spaces that you might be emerging from, or dark spaces that might be falling upon you. There's something there to think about the different ways that we might engage ages together and breaking down some of the barriers between different forms of connecting and expressing, and thinking about how we might switch the lights on, or let Jesus switch the lights on for us in this season of changing days, lengthening days, or lengthening nights, depending on which side of the world you're on. I trust the lights have gone on for you, and that God's blessing shines upon you as many candles in the dark and as the bright sun over us all. Amen.